It's the Score North Twin Show.
Yeah, it's still. I know you guys are glued to MLBTradeRumors.com these days with how hot this Twins hot stove is burning. It is still hot stove season.
Reckless speculation.
They did sign. Didn't they? No, they got a former first round pick right off waivers.
Yeah, some guy from the Cubs. Some guy he was like the 29th overall pick just like 3 years ago.
Let's see here.
So they got that going for
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Oh yeah, Ryan Jensen. Not to be
Jensen.
confused with the redheaded offensive lineman from the Buccaneers, right? Don't they have a Ryan Jensen?
Didn't the Twins have a guy named Marcus Jensen at one time?
Yeah, we used him on the grid a couple weeks ago. He was a catcher.
That's what I thought. Okay.
He was a
That's
catcher.
right.
So yeah, Ryan Jensen was the former 27th overall pick out of the University of Fresno in 2019, and to this point, he has yet to make his major league debut. Another guy, by the way, big strikeout numbers, but also crazy big walk numbers too. Last season, between the Cubs and Seattle Mariners organizations, AA and AAA, he walked 54 batters in 64 innings of relief, which helped lead to a 5.32 earned run average and a whip of near 2. So just kind of a project. They're buying low on a former first round pick. So that brings our tally to outgoing on the season, off season. Sonny Gray gone, Kenta Maeda, Emilio Pagan, Andrew Stevenson, Tyler Mahle, Michael A. Taylor is still out there in free agency. Donnie Barrels, Joey Gallo. Incoming, at least on their 40-man, Ryan Jensen, who's never played in the major leagues yet, a project. And then Josh Staumont, who was an okay reliever in the majors a couple years ago, but major walk issues. So.
Bring my guy back.
Michael A.
That's Michael A.
Is that a national?
With the Nats. Yeah. Bring him back.
I agree at this point.
Look at this play he's making right here. Don't you want to see these plays?
It does look like a great play.
He's making that catch. He's a gazelle.
He really is. So we will on this episode of the Score North Twin Show. Today is our first unveiling of the first part of our top 25 Twins of all time. I say I put together this list. You guys can poke at it and tweak it, but I will give you 25 through 21 as we count down the 25 greatest Twins players of all time. We have a random Twin of the week, but Declan was eavesdropping in on Derek Falvey's Hot Stove radio show with Chris Atterbury. So what did you learn? What are some things we can glean from what the Twins are up to just a month before spring training?
Yeah, it was honestly nice just to hear him kind of address some things that we do want to know about, at least internally. You know, he mentioned that this is historically the time under the regime that, you know, they have made their moves, right? They've waited till mid to late January to do things in the past, and trade chatter has picked up. Couple of things stood out to me. I think we should probably start with the Louie Varland conversation here, because I think this one was a little surprising to me. Chris asked him about Paddack, and we'll get into that too. But he also transitioned to Louie Varland, who said, "What's the plan with him?" Right? He was a starting pitcher, came up with the Twins as a starter, made his debut at Yankee Stadium, then got moved to a bullpen role, upped some velocity. There was some intrigue there, right? We saw towards the end of the year that he was pumping above 95 miles an hour and a flamethrower. So what's the plan for him? Right? Is he going to be a swing man? What is the issue here? And they've told him that we want him to start, and they're preparing Louie Varland to be a starter, which I find very interesting. So the Twins have lost. I did the math on this, and I double-checked my math, too. I know I'm not the math guy. I shouldn't be doing a lot of math unsupervised, but I did do some math here, so bear with me.
Okay.
The Twins lost 357 innings between Sonny Gray, Kenta Maeda, Emilio Pagan. So 357 innings gone from your 1,400 innings that you had last year. So 1,451 is what they had last year innings pitched. So 24% of the Twins' innings pitched is gone.
And those are all good innings,
three
too.
Guys. Yeah, very
those are
important innings.
Really good innings. Pagan had a career season. Sonny Gray was top 3 Cy Young. Yeah.
So they are banking that Louie Varland and Chris Paddack, and we'll get into that in just a bit, can at least help replace the Sonny Gray, Kenta Maeda portion, which is about 288 innings of just starting rotation work, which Chris Paddack is coming off Tommy John. Louie Varland is a complete unknown who can maybe is he even going to be able to last in the rotation through the first few months of the season before moving to a bullpen role. I think that's a really interesting bet to make, especially for a team who hung its hat on its pitching last season.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you lay the math out like that, it's and it's not. There's been some years where you could find some pitchers and cobble them together and say, they got to find 350 innings for these guys. You're like, well, that's not hard. Mike Pelfrey was one of them, and Kevin Correa was another. Like, you're talking about three guys who had pretty damn good seasons, if not really, really good career seasons. On Varland, I'm curious to see where it goes, because just because he's starting the season spring training as a starter doesn't mean that he won't, at the end of the day, be one of their ace relievers. You can't really do it the other way around. You can't start a guy second week in February as a reliever and then be like, oh, no, actually, we need you as a starter, and he hasn't ramped up or anything. So it makes sense for the spring training portion. He should be a starter just in case they need him for that. Stretch the arm out and get ready. I don't know. I still think Louie Varland at the end of the day could be a great ace in the hole. I mean, look at it's a small sample size, but last season as a reliever, he faced 42 batters, 17 strikeouts of those 42 batters, and those hitters batted 150 with a 171 on base percentage and a 300 slugging. Again, small sample size, but when you compare the OPS against Louie Varland as a reliever versus a starter, there is a 400-point difference between the two of them. So some guys are just better suited to throw 98 miles an hour with one secondary pitch and do it in small doses. And I believe that's what Louie Varland is here for, but it still makes sense to ramp him up as a starter in spring training. So I don't disagree with that.
Well, and unless something changes in a big way between now and spring training, and it might, but they've got no choice. Like, when it comes to the rotation, they've lost pieces and they're not replacing them now. And the one thing that I think we need to keep in mind is a trade is still a very good possibility. I think that they'll make a couple of trades, but as far as additions go, this TV situation drags on and it's not done yet. And it's still in bankruptcy court, I believe. And now a hearing got pushed back. And as The Athletic wrote about a few days ago, this directly involves three teams. It involves the Guardians, the Rangers, who, by the way, have done almost nothing. Now, they're still expected to be active, but they need to get this. They basically have the reports are the Rangers need to get their regional sports network situation cleared up before they make a move, which might include retaining Montgomery and signing Hader, but they can't do it yet. Yeah. And then the Twins, whose contract is up, but it looks like it's tracking more and more to the Twins being back on Bally's for another year at a cut rate. So, like, as of right now, they're going to claim that they're hamstrung, and they sort of are by that. Wow. And so that's what makes this far from a slam dunk that, like, oh, there's still a big, there's still a Josh Donaldson type of move, expenditure, not Josh Donaldson.
But you know what? Like, you've brought this up before. I will say, I don't expect in baseball, there's no salary cap. You're only protected by basically your profit break-even point. Correct. So I understand that most owners, you're going to run these teams like a business. You're not looking to take an annual loss on your business. So I don't have an unrealistic expectation that the Pohlad family should take an annual loss on their business to spend with the Yankees. To me, that's an unrealistic expectation. But you've made the point over the last 3 months. Could you just take even a temporary loss, annual loss, whatever it may be, while you're trying to figure out your TV situation to not lose the momentum that you built up for the first time in 20 years, right?
Yes, I agree completely. And I'm not defending the Twins. I'm just saying I think this is what they would say if you said Varland makes more sense from the bullpen. Yeah. I think they would say, we agree with you and we would like to do that. But we currently, like, what you just said and what I've said, I think should be the goal. The reality is it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. So on Paddack real quick here. Mm-hmm. What's interesting there is he's, obviously showed some life in that arm at the end of the season. And he's, his best season in the majors was when he was 23 years old in 2019. So, 4 or 5 years ago. And by the way, in the minors, he was dominant before then, too. He's been like a top prospect or whatever, but he was really good in 2019, had 10 strikeouts per 9, a 3.33 earned run average, a whip below 1. So
Yeah.
he was just, and then the arm issues kind of trickled in 2020, 21. So he's only pitched at any level of professional baseball, major leagues or like rehab assignments. He's only pitched 36 innings since 2021. And Declan just threw that number out. Hey, they're looking to replace 350 plus innings over. It doesn't have to be all one guy, but how many innings? And even before that, 2021, he threw 108 innings. The year before that, it was pandemics. It was 59 innings. In that 2019 season, 140. So he's only thrown over 100 innings once in a professional baseball season. Is he going to give you 160, 170 innings this year? I mean, it's a question, right?
Yeah, and they're banking on that. They're definitely banking more on Paddack than they are with Varland. And, Falvey mentioned that was one of the things they were most excited about coming out of the offseason, or out of this last season, was his, ability to come back and what he showed in that little sample size coming out of the bullpen. But they're banking on him being a mid-tier rotation guy.
Yeah.
But to Phil's point, he hasn't thrown many innings, and it's been 5 years. I mean, he's 28 years old now. That great season he had in 2019, he was 23 years old. Now he's 28. It's just, and no mention of an innings limit either, and not that he has to have one right now, but do you expect Chris Paddack, even at fully healthy, is he going to be able to shove 200 innings for you? I don't think so. It's a very interesting bet.
Odds are no way.
Not 200. I would think like 150 seems like a win, right?
Yeah.
If he could get to 150 and they can manage it.
And this is where, so we joked about this when the acquisition was made, but this is where the team control has to pay off, right? Because if you guys recall, the Paddack thing was all, but look at all the control you've got. Look at all the control you've got. Okay, well, now we're at the key juncture where that control, it can't just be, well, we still owned him and it didn't work out. It needs to be, we still owned him and it paid off.
Real quick on the 200 inning front, because I know we all kind of use that for our whole lives, we've used that as a benchmark. For a while, it was like closer to 300 innings way back when Judd was born, way back when the world was in black and white.
Tom Seaver, Tommy Terrific, Nolan Ryan.
4-man rotations.
They'd shove.
Yeah. And then in my era, in Declan's era, 200 was kind of, your number one, number two starters would give you, like Scott Baker would give you 200 innings, or Nick Blackburn would give you 200, just random dudes. Last year, can you guys guess how many starters in the whole league threw 200 innings?
I bet it's 5.
It's 5.
I guess.
Wow, nice job, Dan.
Nice. Good
Okay.
job.
It is exactly 5.
5 horses.
Yeah.
Dude.
You're right. I need to, not me, we need to lower our, it's now 170? Is that our new, higher echelon or, new barometer?
So only
170?
38 pitchers threw 170 innings.
Wow.
And some of this is, fear of injury. Some of it is just third time through the order fear, and they'd rather not deal with that. Relievers are better. So, give us something else you learned from eavesdropping on Falvey.
A couple other things stood out. On Buxton, they said he's already begun his own BP work, and he has begun what's called baseball activities, which I love that buzzword among baseball executives and coaches when they talk about their prospects or people rehabbing injuries. He has begun baseball activities. They still plan to play him in center field. And the quote I wrote out was very optimistic about where he stands today.
Of course. Because it's freezing cold outside and no one's seen him.
I will defend Buxton for a second, and even Derek Falvey, because we also need to lower our expectation, as we have over the years, of what is valuable and what isn't. I think at this point, 80 games of Byron Buxton is better than no games of Byron Buxton if he can play in the outfield. So I think what they've done going back, they did the DH thing, hoping that we could just get his bat in the lineup for a whole season. But his value, even at age 30, I think his value is still so much tied up in playing outfield and the defense that he brings, the run prevention. So if you're telling me right now, hey, you can go down the DH path again and stop, start, and that whole thing, and he had the worst offensive year he's had in 5 years doing that too. Or you can run him out in the outfield. He's only going to get you 75 or 80 games, and you don't know where those are going to come from. Hopefully they come in October too. I would actually sign up. I want him in the outfield is my official stance here.
I want a season where unfortunately, I mean, if the man ever again plays 100 games or more, it's going to be a miracle. I want a season where I can play him, let's say 85 games, and I don't lose them for an extended period, though. I choose those games. I can choose those games. Like, that's all I want now. But it's asking a lot. It's sad, man, because when he was healthy or when he was playing, he was such a fun player to watch. But the reality is, my expectations have been so dumbed down now with him. Like, I don't really I don't even laugh about what Deck said and say, oh yeah, I think it's sad. Because I mean, yeah, everyone wants him to play, but name me the last year where and I mean, we have started off with plans for how many years now? Like, there have been very, he's going to DH or he's going to play this amount of games in center, or if we can get this. When's the last time that even came close to coming to fruition?
Yeah, that's why I think at this point, put him back in the outfield and let her rip.
Yep.
And rest him.
Yeah.
He should never play a day game after a night game, or if he is, he should sit the night game before. Play 4 days a week. He should take 2 games off every week. Play 4 out of every 6 games. If he did that, if he played 4 games a week for what's the baseball season? It'd be over 100 games, right? 26-week season, play 4 games a week. That's 104 games.
You'd be
cool.
ecstatic.
Atterbury brought up too. I mean, the fact of him playing DH limits also lineup flexibility, defensive alignment.
Yep.
And Falvey brought up Austin Martin, Willie Castro's ability to play center field. So internally, those are that's their options. It's Willie Castro or Austin Martin that will play center if Buxton can't, unless they re-sign Michael Lay or find another free agent.
And I really hate that idea. I hate that idea. I hate it. But here's the other thing: is they need to think about this, because I agree he needs to play in the field. How about Byron Buxton playing some corner outfield?
Yeah, that's that could be a great, because and again, it might just be the act of standing anywhere, but he would have to cover less ground. So I don't know if that reduces wear and tear. But yeah, I mean, Kirby Puckett moved. He was older than 30 at the time, but Kirby Puckett moved off center field. Torrey Hunter was probably 34 when he did it. So
yeah.
Okay. What else, Dex?
Yeah, a couple other last things here. I doubt Donovan Solano's coming back to this team. They asked about his addition, or the idea of him coming back, and he was signed late into spring training last year. And look, Donnie was great. Donnie exceeded expectations. He was a really good utility pinch hitter, guy who could step in and get a lot of clutch hits for you. He was great. But the way he talked about, we have some other internal options on our roster. Jose Miranda, Trevor Larnach, Willie Castro, Austin. He said, unless something changes, we can always circle back. But he pretty much gave that he's not coming back to our team.
And he's 35. Yeah, he's and they're clearly looking to not spend 7 figures if they can spend 6 figures, which is kind of what this is. Donnie Barrels will cost you 7 figures, and Austin Martin will cost you 6 figures.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
There you go.
Last thing too, Royce Lewis. They asked about him too, and I found it interesting. Falvey brought up the fact, because obviously Royce Lewis came up as a shortstop. They have Carlos Correa at short. He mentioned the idea of the flexibility that actually gives them when Correa needs an off day. They can play Royce Lewis at shortstop. Of course, they plan to play him every day at third base. That'll be his primary position. No one's shocked by that. But we also, I think, do forget about the fact that this guy came up at short, and he can play shortstop too. I would like him to be comfortable at third for sure, but I did find that a little interesting, because I think we forget that Royce Lewis obviously came up as a shortstop too.
Yeah. So there it is. Little Derek Falvey update here as we're just a month away from spring training. Boys, I'd love to unveil the first 5 players in my top 25 Twins of all time list.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think a little theme music here to set the mood. I will tell you, I did this list. I put it together. It's hard all over the place, because there's I would say 3 or 4 options for the number 1 player probably 3 options that you could fight about for the number 1 player. But then when you get down to 20 through 25, there's some guys from back in the 60s that you're kind of fighting with guys in the early 2000s. So I did send this list to 2 former Twins general managers. And I said, am I missing anything? Are there any am I going to look like an idiot if I bring this list exactly as constructed? One of the former general managers, you can guess who the 2 probably are from when I covered the Twins. One of them said, boy, this is, I don't think I'd change anything. It's definitely going to generate some good debate, but he enjoyed going through it. The other one said, I would put this guy that's off your list, I would put this guy on the list.
Okay.
And that guy is Eddie Guardado.
Oh,
I left Eddie Guardado off the list. And I guess I didn't get enough of a convincing. I went back, did some research. He was a long-time Twin. He got beat up pretty good as a starter and kind of a middle reliever in the mid-90s. Mm-hmm. But then he became one of the best closers in baseball for like a 2-year period.
Right.
And he was a good setup guy even before that.
Yep.
So I don't know. He probably does deserve a spot on this list, but I couldn't figure out who to bump off. So honorable mention, Eddie Guardado. Also, Mudcat Grant and Michael Kadire get honorable mentions for sure. And maybe even Corey Koski. I don't think I put Corey Koski on here. Just double checking. So, all right, with that, number 25, Brad Radke. Possibly the most underrated player in Twins history, because we think of Radke oftentimes as just like the guy that gave up first inning home runs, right, for all those years. Right. He like the K fan would make fun of him. Didn't Common Man had a bit, right?
708.
He was an 8th round. Yeah, what time is he going to give up the first home run? He was an 8th round pick in 1991, a 12-year major league career, all of it with the Twins. And he actually has the second highest wins above replacement mark among all Twins in history. All Twins pitchers in history.
Interesting.
1997, he won 20 games. He finished 3rd in the Cy Young voting. And he also won. The Twins, he won, and the Twins won 2 of the games he started in the 2002 ALDS. They won the 3 games, and he was responsible for 2 really good pitching performances. And by the way, all of the damage he did as a pitcher was in the middle of the steroid era, like late 90s, early 2000s. And so Brad Radke is 25 on my list.
I think that's incredibly fair.
I want to know who's ahead of him. Because, I mean, in terms of the WAR, I mean, just in terms of WAR, wins above replacement, which obviously Phil Mackey knows a lot about, like second most wins above replacement for any pitcher, that's a good merit, man.
Yeah, and I should preface this by saying too that for my criteria, peak greatness is always gonna win out over longevity. So like longevity strongly considered, but part of the reason why Brad Radke has racked up more wins above replacement is because he pitched for the Twins for 12 seasons, as opposed to some of the other guys that maybe were better at their best, but were only there for a short amount of time. Sure. Number 24, one of the great catchers in Twins history, Earl Batty.
Yeah.
So Earl Batty was a 4-time All-Star in the 1960s, multiple Gold Gloves, multiple seasons with MVP votes. He caught Jim Cott, Camilo Pascual, Jim Perry, and he was inducted into the Twins Hall of Fame in 2004. I obviously never saw Earl Batty play. And even the 2 Twins general managers I consulted with are like, never saw Earl Batty play, but heard great things about him.
Patrick did. Yeah. Yeah, he was I think they got him from the White Sox. But yes, he was the first, I don't know if great's the right word, but he was the first, I think, prominent Twins catcher.
Yeah. Yep. In an era where they were going, they were one of the best teams in the American League.
Yeah.
Right?
Went to World Series with them.
Okay, number 23, Jim Perry.
Yeah.
10-year Twins career. He was the 1970 Cy Young Award winner in the American League.
Yep.
He also finished top 10 in MVP voting twice in his career with the Twins. So a pitcher finishing top 10 MVP voting twice. That 1970 season where he won the Cy Young, he had the 24 wins and 40 starts, 13 complete games, 4 shutouts, and he is 7th among all-time Twins pitchers in wins above replacement. I put him above Brad Radke, kind of similar in that they're both like really good for 10 years, but Jim Perry at his best was the best pitcher in the American League as recognized in the Cy Young voting. So Radke got 3rd one time in Cy Young voting, 1997. Jim Perry above him.
I feel like he's a forgotten guy in like Twins lore, because everyone like in generations, right? At least like generations know Brad Radke and Johan Santana, but I feel like people forget about how good also Jim Perry really was for the Twins.
Yeah, and I feel like Jim Cott is like, if you go back, I mean Blyleven was kind of after this, but Cott, Blyleven, Camilo Pascual, you kind of think of some of those names, maybe even Mudcat Grant before you, at least for me, before you think of Jim Perry. But that 1970, I forgot that he had won the 1970 Cy Young Award. So there you have it. Okay, number 22, one of the great defensive shortstops in Twins history, Greg Gagne cracks my list.
Okay.
Offensive player, not so much, but 10-year career with the Twins from 1983 to 1992. And he was one of the best defensive shortstops in the entire league during his prime. You might say, wait a second, he never won a Gold Glove, which I think is a crime that he never won a Gold Glove.
Means nothing, yes.
But it was kind of an offensive, like they would give it, like during his run with the Twins, Alan Trammell and Cal Ripken were snagging Gold Gloves.
Yeah.
Because of their bats in part, right? Tony Fernandez won a couple.
Herbeck didn't win one, and he's one of the great fielding first basemen I've ever seen.
Yep. So you look at like the metrics it's hard to use some of the metrics, but like some of the metrics that they've gone back and looked at defensively, he was a wizard. He was the starting shortstop for 2 World Series winning teams in 87, 91. And I know that fielding percentage and errors aren't the best way to measure overall defense, but he did only commit 9 errors in the 1991 season at shortstop, which is pretty incredible. So
he had a bigger defensive WAR in his career than an offensive WAR, which I mean, and playing shortstop, playing a very important position. Like that is very impressive. I 2 World Series. I mean, if you're the shortstop too, right, of 2 World Series winning teams, which obviously Greg was correct for 87 and 91.
Yep.
I mean, you got to have him on the list.
Yep.
And
I think too.
I was going to say they got him from the Yankees in one of those early salary dump trades after they moved into the Metrodome. He was a Yankees prospect, and I don't know if it was a Smalley or Weiniger trade or what, but that was actually one of their most savvy trades because he was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah. I think I just wanted to represent. I wanted to represent great defense, and some of that is represented in some of these players who were both. But he is legitimately one of the great defensive players in franchise history, even that he wasn't the hitter that some of these other guys are. So Greg Gagne, number 22. And my last name for today's unveiling of the first 5 is number 21, Cesar Tovar. 8-year Twins career starting in 1965, the ultimate jack of all trades player for the 1960s Minnesota Twins. He played at least 75 games at 6 different positions in his career at a high level. And he received MVP votes in 5 different seasons. 1976, he led the league in doubles and triples. He had 49 combined doubles and triples. He also stole 186 bases for the Twins in those 8 years, including 45 in 1969. So just a dude that you could put anywhere on the field, a spark plug sort of gap-to-gap hitter, and a guy that got MVP consideration in 5 different seasons. Cesar Tovar.
Played all 9 positions in a game, right, as a stunt for the Twins?
Yep.
So, no, in fact, I think Cesar was... Did Royce get Cesar in the Twins Hall of Fame? Was that 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
Because
I think his crusade for like 10 years.
Well, his two big ones, and they're both done now, was to get Pasquale in and Cesar Tovar in.
Yep, and he got them both. He got them both. So as we count down, 25 Brad Radke, 24 Earl Batty, 23 Jim Perry, 22 Greg Gagne, and 21 Cesar Tovar. There you go. So, all right, Judd, you have a random twin of the week for us here to wrap this episode.
Yes, I do.
The random twin of the week, it's a close battle here. I have 8 wins. Declan has 8 wins. Judd has 7 wins. So today we'll break the tie between Declan and me. The last handful of random twins. In fact, Declan's on a 3-game winning streak with Kent Herbeck, CJ Crone, Delman Young, and then Emilio Pagan, Matthew LeCroy, Drew Butera were the 3 before that. So Judd's going to throw out a series of clues. Declan and I can shout out answers whenever we think we know. If one of us hits a 3rd strike, that person is out and the other person wins automatically. No cheating, no Googling.
All right. This former twin hails from Selma, California. Selma, Selma, California. He attended high school in Easton, California, and starred in baseball and football. He then struggled in his first 2 collegiate seasons, but was a star in his junior season in college. In fact, this former twin was so good in his junior season that he ended up going back in the draft and was picked 25th. So he was a first-round draft pick.
Oh, so he had 1 good year in college, and he was the 25th overall pick.
He was the 25th pick in the draft.
And then he came out. He didn't go back for his senior year. Can I ask you that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep. This former Twin had his first big league at bat on July 7th, 2006 against the White Sox.
Not this guy.
Hold on.
Yep.
Well, I guess okay. You didn't say who drafted him yet.
That at bat only happened because of an injury to Mike Redmond. This former Twin played for 4 other clubs in his career besides the Twins. This former Twin went 8-13 with a 4.47 ERA in 26 games and 24 starts with the Twins.
26 games,
wait.
24 starts.
Yep, with the Twins. 8-13, 4.47 ERA.
Okay, so that's his career with the Twins.
Yep, exactly.
8-13, 4.47 ERA. First at bat versus Whites. What? This is so weird.
He was once named the USA Today Minor League Player of the Year.
That's insane. That's pretty good.
Matt Garza.
Yes.
Jesus, Declan, you're so good. You're on. This is a heater, man. This is a heater for
Heater.
Dex.
Heater.
Wow, dude. Wow. Okay, how
That's
did you
correct.
pull that?
I was not sniffing around it at all. You said minor league player of the year 2006.
Yep.
And I remember him. I remember he was a highly touted prospect. And then I blurted that out. I'll be honest. That was a guess, but
He
a
was
little
the-
bit of education.
Wow.
I believe, according to his wiki page, he was the first Twins pitcher to have an at bat since like Alan Anderson in the late 80s.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I don't remember him taking that at bat, but that was
I don't either.
they were like a month into their raging hot stretch that carried them throughout 2006 during that stretch.
I think he also got rocked in his first big league
did.
start with the Twins. Like absolutely rocked.
Yep,
Yeah.
he did. He
Good
did.
pitcher.
So, wow, congratulations. Declan takes the lead.
Ah.
9 correct random Twins. I'm at 8. Judd's at 7. It'll be my turn to try and stump you guys next week. Thank you guys for listening to the Score North Twin Show off-season editions here. We will continue to unveil the top 25 Twins next week. And, we'll see you over there. Give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple and Spotify while you're at it. Thank you, guys.